Welcome to our Russian World Cultural video, Letters from Russia, Moscow. Several students and teachers were fortunate enough to go on a trip to Moscow and St. Petersburg, Russia. Most of these travelers had never been to Russia before, so the experience was brand new to them. In this video, we will show you a variety of beautiful and amazing places that exist within and around the city of Moscow. Our storyteller is Emily. She will share her experiences with us in the form of letters to a friend who unfortunately didn't get to travel to Russia with the group. We hope you enjoy the information, delightful comments, and beautiful scenery as we bring you letters from Russia, Moscow.
Dear Christy, I'm sorry that you couldn't come to Moscow with us, but as I promised, I will write to you every day. In this letter, I'm going to tell you about my first day in Russia. This morning, we arrived in Moscow, the capital city of Russia. Moskva, Stolitsa Rossiya. Our plane landed at the Sheremetyevo airport, and we met our guide, Tanya Filatova. Since Moscow is 9 hours ahead of Dallas time, Tanya told us that in order to get used to the time difference, we would not get a chance to sleep at all today. I'm glad because I'm too excited to even think about sleeping. We checked into the Hotel Rossiya, which means Russia. When I opened the curtains in my room, I was surprised. I can see Red Square and the Kremlin from my window. I've seen pictures of these places so many times before, and now here I am in the heart of Russia. A few friends and I decided to go for a walk. At first, we were concerned to go by ourselves because, as you know, Moscow is one of the biggest cities in the world. It's easy to get lost here. The population of Moscow is estimated at over 10 million people. Plus, there are up to 3 million visitors. However, I looked at the map and decided that we could not possibly get lost. The city of Moscow is roughly circular, with streets radiating outward in all directions from the Kremlin, which is the center of the city, and crossing circular boulevards and roads in an ever-winding pattern. We decided to see downtown Moscow, Red Square, and the Kremlin. But before we left for our walk, I had to solve the first problem: what to wear. We looked at the weather forecast on TV and found out that the weather is typical. It's a little below freezing today. Though March is considered the first spring month, there is snow on the streets and some people still wear warm winter coats, including fur coats and large shapka hats. So we headed across the street from our hotel, which is known as Red Square, Krasnaya Ploshchad. I remember that word Krasnaya originally meant beautiful, and it is beautiful indeed. We discovered that Red Square has taken on many faces over the centuries. It was first mentioned in the 15th century as a marketplace. In the 16th century, it became a place where the Tsar's decrees were announced to the people and criminals were executed. For many years, Red Square was a ceremonial center. In our century, it became a place for military parades and official demonstrations in front of Lenin's mausoleum. The backdrop of the square is St. Basil's Cathedral, Sobor Vasilia Blazhenova. It was built in colorful Byzantine style in the time of Ivan the Terrible. It houses 9 churches with fanciful cupolas or onion-shaped domes, which vary in design. According to a legend, after the cathedral was completed, Ivan the Terrible asked the architects if they could build a more beautiful church. They said yes, and in his fury, he ordered the architects blinded so they would never be able to create a more beautiful church. Pretty spooky stuff. Then we went to the Kremlin, Kreml. The word Kremlin means fortress. It sits on a small hill overlooking the Moscow River. 19 wall towers, once used in the defense of the Kremlin, ring the huge walls. These walls are more than 1.25 miles in circumference. Inside the Kremlin's thick, high walls are masterpieces of ancient cathedrals and churches, converted to museums by the communists after the Bolshevik Revolution. Government offices are housed here. Inside the Kremlin is the bell tower of Ivan the Great, built in the 15th century. The Tsar's bell, also known as King of the Bells, is in the front of the tower. At 200 tons, it is the largest bell in the world. It was cast in the 17th century. The Assumption Cathedral, or the Uspensky Sabor, was the traditional site of the coronation of czars. This cathedral, with its 5 golden domes, was built in the 15th century. As I mentioned earlier, the fantastic Cathedral of St. Basil's, built by Ivan the Terrible in the mid-16th century, is just outside the wall of the Kremlin and dominates the landscape. The Moscow Kremlin is the best illustration of history by the czars to show their power and wealth. Now on the Kremlin grounds, there are governmental palaces and museums. While we were visiting the Kremlin, we saw the foreign official delegation that came to meet Russian President Vladimir Putin. Many soldiers on motorcycles accompanied this delegation. Policemen, militsioneri, were a little nervous and told us, "Проходите, быстро, не стойте здесь," which translates to, "Come on, hurry up, you need to go, don't stay here." So that cut our visit to the Kremlin short. It was such a fun day. By the time we returned to the hotel, it was dark. In the evening, the Kremlin towers and churches look like buildings from fairy tales. We all admire its fantastic beauty. Needless to say, our first day in Moscow was very exciting. Your very excited friend, Emily. Dear Christy, I woke up this morning ready to explore Russia. Today, we took a trip to Russia's countryside, to the town of Sergeyev Posad, formerly known as Zagorsk. It's located 72 kilometers, or 44 miles, northeast of Moscow. The whole town is focused around one of Orthodox Russia's key sites, the magnificent Troitsaya Sergeyevskaya Lavra, or St. Sergius Trinity Monastery. Russian people practice many religions, such as Orthodox, Islam, Judaism, or Buddhism. However, most Russians follow the Russian Orthodox Church, a denomination of Christianity. It was interesting to find out that Sergeyev Posad was for centuries one of the foremost places of pilgrimage in Russia. Troitsaya Sergeyevskaya Lavra, or St. Sergius Trinity Monastery, is remarkably packed with a wealth of history, and the church architecture is pretty awesome. The monastery was the home of the Patriarch under Soviet rule and remains an epicenter of Russia's Orthodox revival. Founded in the 14th century, the monastery was founded by a Russian patron saint, Sergius of Radonezh, who was instrumental in organizing resistance to the Tatar occupation of Moscow. The great saint is buried inside the monastery in the Church of Holy Trinity. In this church, we saw beautiful icons by the great medieval painter, Andrei Rublev. It's incredible to see such talent. Then we checked out the Cathedral of the Assumption. I really liked the dazzling blue domes and golden stars. I discovered that the architecture of Russian churches was strongly influenced by the Byzantine style. At first, Russians copied the design of Byzantine churches, which includes towers capped by golden cupolas or domes. Gradually, architects changed the style to suit Russian taste. They added colors, more cupolas, and smaller windows to keep out cold winds. They also made the cupolas more pointed, onion-shaped. It also had the advantage of allowing snow to slide off easily. Now that's pretty smart. We were fortunate to see a church service in action. The atmosphere inside the church was very impressive. There was smoke, and the scent of burning incense floated throughout the air. Soft daylight and candlelight gave the gold decorations a beautiful glow. An elaborate screen, called an iconostasis, stands in front of the altar. During the service, the priest enters and exits the church's main room through the royal gates, or special doors in the middle of the iconostasis. The Russian Orthodox priest sprays holy water over worshippers in the church. I began to get tired of standing. As it turns out, there are no pews or anywhere to sit inside a Russian Orthodox church. Russians should have strong legs because they stand during the entire service, which lasts several hours. I'm glad I wore my sneakers. After the service, we went to some museums. I especially liked the toy museum. Sergeyev Posad is well known for its wooden toys like matryoshka or nesting dolls and other folk arts and crafts. Sergeyev Posad takes on an almost fairyland quality with its flourishing theological college, courtyards, orchards, and painted church domes. The town has even been used for several movies. Well, I'm very tired today. I better wrap up this letter. Can you believe it? It's only been day 2 in Russia. Your very tired friend, Emily. Dear Christy, I woke up this morning so tired, but once I got a cup of coffee, I was ready to go. Today, we had a city tour. We took a bus trip, and then we took a subway. What fun! Russia has many beautiful and unique buildings. They reflect different architectural styles. I already wrote you about the beautiful Russian churches. Today, I also saw other faces of Moscow: aristocratic Russia, Stalinist-style Russia, and modern Russia. We started our tour on Tverskaya Street, Tverskaya Ulitsa, the main street of Moscow. Many buildings there reflect past aristocratic Russia. For example, we saw the beautiful red building of the Museum of Revolution. I was surprised to find out that in the 19th century, it used to be an English club for nobility. Pretty fancy. A short walk away is the Tverskaya Square, Tverskaya Ploshchad. On the right is the equestrian statue of Prince Yuri Dolgoruki, the founder of Moscow, and opposite is the building of Moscow City Council, which in Tsarist times was the residence of the Governor General. A little farther on is Pushkin Square, Pushkinskaya Ploshchad, with the famous Rossiya Cinema. There is a statue honoring the famous poet Alexander Pushkin that stands in the center. The signs of New Russia are everywhere: new banks, casinos, and even a McDonald's restaurant. There are many ads and signs written in English on Tverskaya Street. I was impressed to see so-called Soviet or Stalinist-style buildings. In Moscow, among the most famous buildings of this style are 7 lavish towers, including the Hotel Ukraine, Foreign Ministry buildings, and Moscow State University. These buildings, which were built during the Soviet era, have many stepped levels stacked on top of one another. Foreign tourists have nicknamed the buildings wedding cakes. Funny, they do look like that. In the southwestern portion of the city, where the Moscow River cuts through the Sparrow Hills, stands the University of Moscow with its impressive central building raising to a height of 32 stories. This building is the tallest in Moscow. Across the river from the university are new Central Lenin Stadium and other facilities forming a complete sports area within one of the loops of the Moscow River. After our bus tour was over, we took the subway, metro. A neon red letter M indicates a station entrance. The first time I entered the Moscow subway, I had a feeling that I had stepped into the foyer of a museum. Each station is lavishly decorated with marble, mosaics, stained glass, stainless steel, porcelain, and bronze to express its own motif. Chandeliers hang from the ceilings, not to mention the sculptures and murals that adorn the walls. The escalators leading down to the subway are awe-inspiring. Plunging at inclines of 45 degrees, they are so long that I could not see from one end to the other. There are about 150 stations deep beneath the city. The subway moves more than 8 million people daily. The metro system is affordable, clean, efficient, and safe, even at night. My knowledge of Russian helped me to read the signs, which are in the Cyrillic alphabet. Our study group really did a good job in helping me learn these basics. Moscow Metro is considered the world's most efficient and beautiful subway. Most people in Moscow use public transportation, especially the metro. I'm looking forward to a long bath to soak my worn-out feet. We covered a lot of ground today. Your wandering friend, Emily. Dear Christy, this is day 4 on our trip, but we have seen so much that it feels longer. Today we visited the Moscow State University. We met with some Russian students there. We found out some interesting info about the university. It is the oldest university in Russia. It was founded in 1755 by the great Russian scientist Mikhail Lomonosov. According to the results of national and international surveys, the Moscow State University is number 1 in Russia and among the top 10 in the world. At present, it includes 21 schools: mechanics and mathematics, physics, biology, geography, law, foreign languages, and many more. In the university, we met 2 Russian guys, Vlad Bratslavsky and Vlad Kaslov. We were able to ask them many questions about their studies in high school and the university. They shared their likes and dislikes, talked about their free time, and even told us about their hobbies. It was interesting to find out their musical preferences and what their career plans are for the future. They even talked about their parents, just like we do. I want to share with you what they told us.
В школе с 2 класса, то есть изучаю английский, вот, и вот в институте продолжаю это изучать. Ну, для будущего, для работы, то есть, я думаю, пригодится. Да и вообще для общения, то есть, что по интернету, что если куда-то поедешь, там, как бы, по-английскому все понимают, и, то есть, я думаю, не составит труда, то есть, общаться в мире на английском. То есть, это, как бы, я считаю, нужная вещь. Вот, ну, естественно, хотелось бы тоже побывать в Америке, вот, посмотреть разные достопримечательности и пообщаться с молодежью американской. Что-то связанное с финансами, кредитами, то есть банковское дело, система, то есть менеджмент такого плана. То есть.
Основной предмет – это различное право, вот, и после института я стану юристом. Но я принял решение поступать на юридический факультет в связи с тем, что с точными науками, да, математика, физика, химия у меня не лады. Вот. А намного лучше у меня гуманитарные предметы, такие как русский, история, география. Мама еще хотела, чтобы я тоже пошел на юридический факультет. Вот. Я играю на компьютере, смотрю телевизор, когда хорошая погода, катаюсь на велосипеде. Я не знаю, может быть такое что-нибудь самое интересное именно Америка и национальной культуре, такого плана. Да, фотоальбом, что-нибудь связанное с военными силами Америки, интересное.
Вообще я советую тем, кто приезжает к нам в Россию, в том числе в Москву, посмотреть, естественно, Красную площадь, Кремль, вот, потом, то есть, как бы, музеи разные, там, Большой театр, естественно, сходить. Ну так вообще тоже сходить вот на Ленинские горы, например, там очень красивый вид, то есть Москва-реку видно, вот. Ну, если есть возможность, то есть вечером сходить в какие-то клубы, посмотреть, как молодежь проводит свободное время, вот. Ну, просто походить по Москве, погулять.
I liked talking to these guys. I think they are very open and emotional people. They seriously think about their future and are very persistent in achieving their career goals. They are very